Hey, I'm Libby McGee, World Language Department Chair at O'Fallon Township High School in O'Fallon, Illinois, and this video is going to give an overview of blended learning. Maybe at your school you're starting with blended learning or hybrid learning in the fall. When I try to wrap my mind around the layers of lesson plans for in-person and remote for two different groups of students each week, I just couldn't understand how I'd have enough time in the day to even type it up. But when I began researching hybrid schedules and learning solutions and techniques, I found out that I was thinking of blended learning as a logistical schedule, not an instructional model. And I found out that I needed more information on how to use blended learning. Now, you may be thinking, don't we already do blended learning? I've been teaching in person for years. I've been trained on Blackboard. I'll just continue to upload my course materials, doing my same activities when the students are in person, right? Well, that might work, but that's not blended learning, and it's not accessing the full potential of the situation we are in. Until I learned what teaching in a blended learning situation really is, I thought of it more as the way we were going to get a percentage of our students into the building each day during a pandemic, and then still trying to teach my usual lessons while just uploading course materials to Blackboard doesn't account for many of those hurdles. For example, what about kids who are full remote? And how will you fit your typical 55-minute lesson plan into the shortened 35-minute period schedule? How will you have time over the semester to meet all of your state standards if you're doing every other day? As we transition from remote learning to a hybrid schedule and back to in-person learning with all of the kids in the building, sometime in 2029, how will we be able to use the hybrid schedule to move seamlessly from one plan to another, possibly on very short notice? How will we be able to keep up with what seems like twice the work? These questions are probably keeping you up at night because I know they're keeping me up at night. So this is why we needed to know more about blended learning or hybrid learning. So let's talk about what those two terms mean. What is blended learning or hybrid learning? The Online Learning Consortium calls blended classroom course one in which online activity is mixed with classroom meetings, replacing a significant percentage, but not all, required face-to-face instructional activities. For example, let's say you teach a course that meets 5 times a week and you want to turn it into a blended learning course. Then you would only see your students maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Then they would be doing online work and activities on their own the rest of the time. Some institutions call it hybrid learning depending on if it's an exact mix of in-person and online. But the key is that the students are not with us face-to-face in class every day. Some schools have been doing this on purpose, not even because of a pandemic. So we'll talk about the benefits of this in a minute and why this module can work better than what we traditionally do. As you know, the traditional educational system has existed with face-to-face classrooms up until the early 2000s when many colleges began to use learning management systems like Blackboard to manage course material and communications. Students could check their grades online or go to a discussion or a chat room, access an online textbook. Courses could even offer online courses to non-traditional students who weren't coming on to their campus. I took an online course about blended learning, and the teacher provided everything online but never saw me individually in person. And I did not see her in person, it was only videos. So that would be an online class. To be hybrid or blended, you would have to see them in person a number of days of the course during the week. Before 2020, many of us had probably uploaded resources to Blackboard to give students access at home in addition to what you were doing in your own face-to-face class. Some of us were even able to use Blackboard seamlessly for students at home and during class. Even if you have added a number of online activities to a face-to-face course, you haven't created a blended or hybrid course. You might have created a flipped course, but that's not the same thing because you're still seeing the students every day face-to-face. One defining element of blended learning is that you are replacing some of the face-to-face meetings with online tasks and activities for the students to work on at their own pace. During remote learning, we were trying to make face-to-face courses fit into an online-only course. So that also is not blended learning. In fact, the spring of 2020 was really a nothing of educational module. We were doing the best that we could. So why would anybody choose to do blended learning? Aren't we just doing it because we can't bring all of our students back in? Yes, if we're thinking it as a logistical situation to an unavoidable situation, it can be the best of both worlds. We can bring those kids in, but while still continuing our full learning at home. Another way to look at this is talking about the benefits of blended learning. Not only does it allow for differentiated instruction and for students to work at their own pace, But in our current situation, it does make it easier to move from one phase to another and address the individual and unique student needs and the logistics at our school. We've never had class sizes so small as we will when we return with half of our student population or less in person each day, and these students will benefit from the more individualized attention and instruction. For example, when we're looking at content on Blackboard, a student can view it as many times as necessary at his or her own pace. The class does not have to rewatch an entire video because one person needed to hear it again. Think of reading an article or a story. The whole class does not have to wait for one student to finish so that they can then move on. And the students at home can reread it as many times as they individually need. This is going to be a huge help for students, especially when we talk about, you may have heard the term the COVID slide from back in the spring. We're going to have to try to catch them back up, and some might take longer than others to do that. Logistically, it can be a time and money saver. Excuse me. Because each student can work at their own pace from anywhere. And on the teacher end, we'll have fewer students in class and we'll be able to better connect with them and provide for their individual needs. And we have those auto-graded quizzes on Blackboard, am I right? The online components through Blackboard will allow us to focus our curriculum on what is must know and do. And with the shortened class periods, we'll be probably able to rethink some of the things that we do in person that now maybe can be moved online or can be eliminated totally due to the need to move through our standards and curriculum quickly. We're going to talk about how to prioritize these activities and learning in another video.